There are rumors that in the depths of the Greater Khingan Mountains, there have been countless mysterious and bizarre stories. The Mountain Keepers guard, not just this endless mountain range. What the Mountain Keepers really guard is the strange and ghostly things in the depths of these 10,000 mountains. Today I want to talk about that is not a legend, but a ghost story that I experienced personally. My name is Liu Tianqing, a rebel in the eyes of others. The college student gave up the bright future in the city and plunged into this vast forest. He took over the responsibility of a mountain keeper. In current terms, he is a forest keeper. In winter, there are few living things in the Greater Khingan Mountains. The scenery outside the window is also the same white. Suddenly, something appeared in the distance. Now there are several moving black dots. Makes me highly suspect that I am seeing things. Entering the mountain in this season, which is obviously suicidal, I put down the hot tea in my hand and put on the fur hat. If you go astray in the desert, you might be able to get out. But if you enter the Greater Khingan Mountains in winter, unless a fairy comes down, otherwise there is no vitality. The extreme cold temperature and the hidden crisis under the snow are enough to kill people more than a dozen times. Stopping these mountain people from straying in is also one of the tasks of the mountain keeper. Before I put on my coat to stop them, those black dots had already come step by step, came to the door of the wooden house. They were not polite, and just opened the door and walked in. I looked at the three people in front of me, all wrapped in leather coats, wearing leather hats, and the breath had condensed into ice on their scarves. The leader took off his scarf. With a thick beard, the bearded man picked up the hot tea on the table and drank it. The other two brothers have already stuffed roasted sweet potatoes into their mouths. They were completely like bandits. It is not the time to look for ginseng in this season. I felt a little wary. The way these guys act is obviously not good. The so-called taken originally referred to those who went into the mountains. Later the so-called Kenshin became a metaphor for treasure. Anyone who goes into the mountains to search for treasure. These people are also called Fangsharan, but the general time to go into the mountains is in summer or autumn. At that time the deep mountains and forests were rich in supplies. Even if you get lost in the forest, you won't starve to death. In spring beasts are in heat, and in winter there is a lack of supplies. Even the most experienced mountain men wouldn't choose to go into the mountains in winter. Stop talking nonsense. What are we doing in the mountains? I don't need to report to you. A little kid, Jinya, who was eating sweet potatoes, directly drew out. My hand was stuck in the wooden table. Seeing the dagger with a cold light, I remembered what my grandfather had said. In the old forest, there will be a group of unruly people. These people come from all over the world. Knife wielders from Hebei, Shandong Xiaoma, Hubei's Huzi, Sichuan's Brohao. The descendants of these professions come to the mountains with ulterior motives. But for me, a flower in the greenhouse, I don't believe there are so many lawbreakers. I didn't expect to meet them today. Little brother, you don't have to be afraid. I heard that you mountain guards have a map diary. We came here to borrow your notebook. The bearded man took a sip of hot tea, with a warm smile on his face. But I felt a strong murderous intent from them. In this deep mountain forest, and the heavy snow has blocked the mountain. It is 2 or 3 months. If they really kill me, it will be found in spring. Before someone finds my body, I didn't bring my notebook. Go up the mountain. But the content is all in my mind. I know it clearly. If I really hand over the notebook honestly, I am afraid the other party would turn against me. Hearing my second half of the sentence, the bearded man's eyebrows also slightly frowned. Do you know where Hedong is good? When the bearded man spoke, I almost confirmed his identity as a northeastern bandit, which is also known as bandits. In the old days, there were many bandits in the mountains of northeast. The cottage where the bandits lived, it is called Liuza, because most of the bandits who went up the mountain mostly had little education. So they usually named their cottages, ended with a good word. For example, Qinglong is good, Dongfang Hao, Hexi Hao. Brothers, I am Hutuman. You found the best place. Your bare feet stepped on the snow, and it is cold. I racked my brains to find some stories from my grandpa. I managed to come up with some jargon. In bandit jargon, Bing Jinzi means brother. Hutuman is surnamed Wang. Scouting a location is to investigate a residence. Mao Jiannenya is a new guy. The meaning of it is brothers. My surname is Wang. I am a newbie who just joined. Please take care of me. Wow, this is also a Tangchung famous point. One of the younger brothers was eating sweet potatoes, sighed in astonishment. The so-called Tangchung famous point means knowing the bandit is jargon. He is an insider logically speaking. In this day and age, the Northeast bandits have long been extinct. Being a bandit in this era is simply courting death. But those bandits also had descendants. As the saying goes, dragons give birth to dragons. Phoenixes give birth to phoenixes. Most of their descendants also engaged in illegal activities. So these dialects have been passed down. Boy, this is a big disaster if you lead us there. I'll give you 20%. The bearded man saw that I could speak the jargon, so he regarded me as a fellow. Just now they were at loggerheads. Now they want to recruit me. I was curious. These guys were. Why did you go into the mountain on a snowy day? Now I have a chance to ask. Boss, in this cold winter we can't even see a guest meal. What is the matter with Sean recently? I bent down and poured another cup of hot tea for the bearded man. Nowadays, the times are progressing. Those names are out of date. Just call me Third Master Ku. Ku Shi Lawson waved his hand, although he refused verbally, but the smile on his face couldn't be hidden. And he even gave himself a full name of bandit. Kui San Yi really thinks, as the Zuo Shan Dao in Liuzistan, we're not going into the mountains to dig ginseng, but to find the tomb. Kui took a sip of tea and said proudly, hearing about finding a tomb, I was a little surprised. These bandits didn't rob houses, but they learned from the southern tomb robbers. That Kui Third Master, I am not talented. According to my knowledge, those rich officials are usually buried in the ancient southern capital. In ancient times, our place was a group of barbarians. There must be no valuable treasures. I smiled and chatted with them. Even I, a layman, know that. To find ancient tombs, you have to go to the south, or Shanxi, known as the Bailey Chin River Plain. Who would come to this place like Greater Khingan Mountains? Not to mention, thank you the king, the queen, the general, and the prime minister. Even if an ordinary family died, they wouldn't be buried in this out-of-the-way place. For my words, Ku's a Third Master just smiled mysteriously. You are right. If you want to rob tombs, this is indeed not a good place. But there is only one tomb. Not only is it buried in this deep mountain forest, but also countless treasures. Kui Third Master lowered his head mysteriously, which aroused my interest. I put my ear to Third Master Kui's mouth. Only then did Third Master Kui speak slowly. It was the Taiching Imperial Tomb of Huang Taiji's ancestor. Hearing the words Taiching Imperial Tomb, I was slightly taken aback. If it weren't for these beards talking so seriously, I really doubt if they were deceived. You know, before the Manchu entered the pass, they were uncivilized nomads. Even the emperor, Taiji's father Nurhasi, was buried in Shenyang Qingfu Tomb after the Qing army entered Beijing, was buried in Qingfu Mausoleum in Shenyang, if we count Emperor Huang Taiji's ancestors. We're simply a group of savages hunting in the mountains. Before being sinicized, they didn't have diseases. Culture was almost buried wherever one died, and no mausoleums were built later. The mausoleum was built after the Qing entered the pass. After the Qing dynasty absorbed much Han culture, they began to adapt to local customs. I said, Kuxi Third Master, you must not be deceived. In Greater Khingan Mountains, how could there be the Taiching Imperial Tomb? Even if Huang Taiji, if his ancestors really had any hidden treasures, it would be in Changbai Mountain. Anyway, I am also a college student who has studied. The predecessor of the Qing dynasty was Jurchen. Their hometown is near Changbai Mountain. The virgin forest of Greater Khingan Mountains is for now, with 1.4 billion people. It was rare for people to live there. Even during the prosperous Qianlong period, there were only. This place is even ignored. There is no tomb here. You know nothing. The Third Master said, there is a treasure here. Then there must be. The guy eating sweet potatoes rolled his eyes and kept praising them. Looking at the three bearded men in front of him, somehow, I felt a little pity for them. Three bandits who didn't read much. We're deceived by some even worse people. In this desolate Daxing and mountains, in the cold winter and snowing heavily. Treasure hunting. Xiao Wang, I think you are also a cultured person. Third Master, I respect scholars the most. After we find Hexi, you will definitely get your share of the treasure. Kui Third Master gave me a cigarette. After all this persuasion, but I didn't expect this guy still had evil intentions. Looking at the saliva-stained leaf tobacco, I shook my head. Third Grandpa, haven't you got it? There is no treasure in the greater Kingan Mountains. You'd better go down the mountain now, otherwise, there is no turning back once you enter the mountain. I still tried my best to explain. It is not just seeing several people being deceived, but also because I don't want to go into the mountains. Especially with these stupid guys. Seeing me again, they opened their mouths. Cool Third Master's face finally turned cold. The guy called Golden Tooth. It seems that this little brother hasn't figured out the situation. Cool Third Master gave a wink. The guy called Golden Teeth directly took off his coat and took out a firearm and placed it on the table. It is a genuine 20-shot German box pistol. Kid, do you want to hear it? Jinya dangled the box pistol in his hand and kept gesturing in front of me. The so-called box cannon is the German Mauser pistol during the anti-Japanese war. It is an old thing that has long been obsolete, especially the one in Jinya's hand. Even the rifling is worn out. Even so, I wouldn't risk my life to gamble on whether this old thing can still work. Kid, don't think that just because I let you call me Third Master, you can push your luck. Put on your clothes. Let's go now. If you hesitate anymore, I'll fucking kill you. Jinya is obviously not a good negotiator. When he said he would kill me, eyes were shifty. We're still wandering back and forth on me, which was extremely disgusting. No, I understand what it means to be a scholar meets a soldier. I can't explain myself clearly. Even if I argued my case, they still insisted that there was treasure in the Great Kingan Mountains. Now if I don't go with them, he will really arrest me and bleed me. Since the Third Master gave us face, we have to accept it. I'll accompany the gentleman and go with Third Master. I took off the brown fur coat from the hanger and put it on directly. Fortunately, it was my first job after graduation. Work is sales. I have developed the ability to flatter, especially for people like Third Master Cool, which is quite useful. This cultured person is different. You kids' words are pleasing to Third Master Cool. There will be benefits for you, Cool. The Third Master waved his hand, put down his teacup and walked out. Looking at his right-hand man beside him, I knew I had to go on this trip. Before leaving, I still had a mind. I not only took my phone, but also left a note in the room, indicating to pick up in case someone goes up the mountain and sees the note. They can take measures and bring their phones. The purpose is also to think that in case there is a letter, okay, you can send a text message for help. Brother Wang, our team is just ahead. When we find Hexy, it will be a great achievement. Kui pointed to the front. The wind and snow were at their peak. The northwest wind, like a knife, blew on my face, cutting my skin painfully. I stepped in the snow deeply and shallowly. It was like walking in a swamp. It is only a dozen meters. It is a 5 or 6 minute walk. I was out of breath, following the footsteps of the three brothers, over the hill in front of us. Everything in front of me completely made me give up the idea of escaping. Looking around, there was heavy snow. There are countless black dots densely packed. There are at least 70 or 80 people. Everyone is carrying a heavy package, and even 5 or 6 yaks in the team, carrying heavy supplies. In such a harsh environment, livestock is much more reliable than those iron bumps. I looked at the scene in front of me, and everyone was stunned. I originally thought they were just 3 fools who were fooled. But they are such a well-planned expedition team. Could it be that in the Greater Kingan Mountains really hides a secret that even the mountain keepers don't know? I said. Third Grandpa, after you went out, you only caught such a young man. Didn't you say that the mountain keeper is experienced? Is the Greater Kingan Mountains your living map? This can't be just a random person to fill the quota, right? A man in a fur coat and height, a short and fat man about 1.5 meters tall. He gave Kui a provocative look, judging from his tone, obviously full of malice towards Third Master Kui. Okay, everyone calm down. All the gentlemen, put your heads on the line. We are here to make a fortune. As the saying goes, harmony brings wealth, but wealth is not seen. Don't hurt the harmony first. A middle-aged man wearing a furry trench coat stood out with a peacemaker's attitude. He looked to be in his 40s, wearing sunglasses, and looked like a big boss. Now I've figured it out. Kufai and his men are not the same group. The more than 70 people present should be hired by this boss. Third Master, you know our business. Don't let the pine needles pierce your flesh. The boss of the trench coat is smiling but not happy. Fortunately, I can understand the jargon. This is to let Kui Sanyi killed me. Heroes, don't look down on me because I am young. But I have been through the 9 mountains and 13 valleys. I know which side is the good and which side is the bad. I know it clearly. To save my life, I quickly spoke up, to show my role. These guys, the Mountain Keeper is to be a living map at this critical moment. Even if I am a directionally challenged person, I have to come out and be the boss. Otherwise, I will really be stabbed to death on this snow mountain. Hearing me speak up, Ku Third Master, who just suffered a loss in words, also seemed to find a foothold. Well, although the brother I found is young, but he is definitely a mountain keeper in Xinnanling. Everyone should know this. Not everyone can be a mountain man. With him leading the way, we can definitely avoid many detours. Kui patted me on the shoulder. In fact, he didn't know if I was capable, but in order to save face in front of the boss, he tried his best to praise me. After all, bragging doesn't cost anything. Even if he was wrong, it is just a shot. He wouldn't lose anything if he killed me. The previous mountain keeper was my grandfather. He retired because of his old cold legs. I am here to take over. I just went up to introduce myself. At this critical moment, my life is in their hands. It all depends on his words. Now is not the time to be shy. Chen pushed his sunglasses up his nose and looked me over carefully. Hearing the other party ask about my grandfather's identity, I couldn't help straightening my back. 70 years ago, Qinglong was good at Shangtuo. Zhang, a master of Tiangang, and Tangshan, Zhu Shang. I immediately revealed my grandfather's name. I felt a little more confident. In Liuza, bandits also have the most basic structure, and the system is based on their duties. Work and status are divided into 4 pillars and 8 beams. The so-called general master is like a military advisor in a bandit den. He is the second in command. That is also filial piety, the number 1 person in the mountains. Later, he met my grandmother and changed his ways, descended the mountain, and became an old mountain keeper. I often heard my grandfather tell those bandit stories. Many years ago, Qinglonghao was the local number 1 gangster. He had over 300 gunmen under him. I didn't expect you to be the grandson of second master Zhang Chen. The foreman also showed a smile on his gloomy face. My grandfather just told me some stories about the mountains. I don't know how powerful he was. I don't know. Now, after 70 years, there are still people who know his reputation. It seems that my grandfather also hides many secrets. Since the grandson of Master Zhang is here, then we have nothing to worry about. Let's go. Chen Ba, with a wave of his hand, and led the team to continue their journey. I was in the limelight, and Third Master Kui was also proud. Little brother, I didn't expect you to have such a great background. Second Master Zhang could trap a regiment. To trap a regiment to death. Did you inherit this skill from Ying Zhaosen? Third Master Kui leaned closer, and handed me another cigarette. This time I didn't refuse. I took it and took 2 puffs, to refresh myself. The so-called Eagle Claw grandson. We're the coffins used to catch bandits at that time. It is said that some capable fortune tellers can communicate with ghosts and gods. In this primeval forest, they were like living gods. I casually perfunctory a few words, with an awkward smile on my face. Although I was polite, but I was really panicked. Besides listening to my grandpa's stories, I don't have his skills. No, I am just talking nonsense to survive. I am talking nonsense here. If something really happens, I'll be exposed directly. Who are those people who are against you? Third Master, with such a tough tone. What is their background? I pointed to the short and fat man before, and started a conversation with Third Master Quotes. In fact, I was thinking of a way to escape. The little fat man. I heard that they were a group of monks found by Chen from Guanzhong. I was stunned when I heard the word monk. Monks in temples are treated quite well, aren't they? Why are they doing this job? Are they real monks? Known as the first Taoist monk in Guanzhong, I heard that he is called Guansheng Taibao. Kui Third Master took a puff of cigarette, and frowned slightly. Hearing the words Guansheng Taibao, I was a little bit. I just heard a group of monks, which really scared me. In fact, the so-called Guansheng Taibao are actually the tomb guardians of the Imperial Mausoleum. Later the dynasty collapsed. In order to avoid being caught, they shaved their hair and became monks, to hide their identities, and guarded the tombs as monks. In this way, they were called Guansheng Taibao. These people generally have a deep understanding of feng shui, and because they guarded the imperial tombs, and also mastered many imperial secrets, this time, the Taiching Imperial Tomb might be brought out by these people. Look quickly. There is a bloodline ahead. I don't know who shouted in the crowd, Everyone looked up and looked forward. About 2 or 3 miles away from us was a piece of in the continuous snow. The snow-covered mountain peaks, like a winding white line entering the third. The 3 bends are hard to pass. I muttered a sentence. I couldn't help but feel a sense of despair. After crossing 3 bends, it is the hinterland of Greater Kingen Mountains. It would be impossible to turn back at that time. Let's go, little brother. We are destined to meet. Along the way, you must tell us some good stories. The good stories of Qinglong back then. Jinya put his arm around my neck and treated me as a good buddy. From his eyes, I could see his admiration for the bandit beard, but all I can think about is how to escape. There is still a chance to escape now. If we run after passing 3 bends, it will be more difficult. In that place, if I leave the team, you might die faster. At the foot of the mountain in front of Third Master Kui's 3 bends, I know a small camp. We can rest there and leave when the snow stops tomorrow. I leaned close to Kui-san. He started to advise like a dog-headed strategist. Although this guy has a full beard, but he is meticulous. Of course he knows what I mean. Now the wind and snow are blowing. Whether it is people or animals, they all walk against the wind. Not only the speed is slow, but also extremely exhausting. If I told Chen at this time that there is a camp where we can rest, that would be a great achievement. Good boy, Third Master. I really like you more and more. Ku patted me on the shoulder with an indescribable joy in his eyes. There are 70 or 80 of us. Consumes a lot of supplies. In the case of insufficient supplies, rest is more important than. It is worth going forward. Don't say you can eat snow when you are thirsty. In the severe cold of the Greater Kingen Mountains, eating snow to replenish water will only make you die faster. You may die of thirst. It will take 7 or 8 days, but if you take a few bites of blood, the rapidly dropping core temperature will make you unable to survive the night. Kushi Third Master followed my advice. To have a simple negotiation with Chen Buto. We walked for more than 3 hours, before finally reaching the temporary camp at the foot. It is called a camp. It's actually a slightly flat area, with some firewood piled up. This is where I once hunted with my grandpa in the mountains. And the farthest forest I've ever been to. Everyone will rest here tonight. Wait until the snow stops tomorrow. We'll move forward at full speed. Chen waved his head and announced the plan for tomorrow. I am familiar with this camp. The reason why I led them here is to make it easier to escape. At night, it is dark and quiet. Sneak back to the cabin. At night, the northwest wind blew the snow on the ground. Snowflakes hit the face, making it hard to open eyes. All the brothers huddled around the fire and buried their heads in their arms, almost curled up. I became a zongzi to resist the low temperature at night. The intense burning bonfire and the reflection of my own heat. I can barely survive such a winter night. I still buried my head and continued to pretend to sleep. After a while, the surroundings finally became quiet again. I stood up from the ground quietly. I moved my stiff legs. The Greater Kingen Mountains at night is like a dormant beast. Only the howling wind is like a beast's roar in the dark. I returned to the cabin alone from Sandawan at night. The journey can be said to be very dangerous. Even casually, the last sleep might have killed me. But compared to entering the mountain with these people, I'd rather take the risk to try. I walked back, although I have never been in the deep mountains. But I can also know from my grandfather's stories, the depths of the Greater Kingen Mountains are truly deadly. To prevent getting lost, I also stole some of their supplies. I put the dry food in my arms and turned to leave. I had just taken 3 steps. In the darkness, a shrill and extreme roar suddenly came from the darkness. The miserable sound overwhelmed the howling wind in the dark night. All the brothers in the camp all acted like ostriches in the desert. They lifted their heads buried deep. Kui reacted first and stood up abruptly. Chen also came out of the tent and saw all the brothers were vigilant. I also knew it wasn't a good time to leave. The screams came from that direction. Let's go and see. Kui Third Master was carrying the flashlight walked into the dark night. He happened to pass by me. To prevent being seen through, I could only follow him, following the footprints on the snow. We finally arrived at the place where the screams came from. The scene in front of me almost made me vomit my dinner. A man whose stomach was ripped open was hanging on a high branch. The bright red blood stained the snow. His intestines and the stomach were torn everywhere. I looked carefully at the footprints on the snow. I found the footprints very strange. It looked like a beast neither human nor animal, with only 3 big toes, definitely not ordinary things. How, little brother, did you see anything cool, sir? The master came up to me and asked me, facing the strange footprints on the ground. I thought of a kind my grandfather once mentioned, 3-foot shanxiao. When I said the word shanxiao, all eyes around me suddenly turned to me. Everyone was silent. In the dead silence, the cold wind blew with snowflakes, making a whining sound with the bloody scene in front of me, making people tremble with fear. Their faces showed fear and doubt, but they didn't speak. They were all waiting for me, an expert who recognized the shanxiao at a glance, to give a further explanation. Kuxi was the closest to me, and his face was also full of solemnity. He asked me in a low voice, little brother, what the hell is this 3-finger longer you mentioned? I swallowed my saliva and tried to make myself, in front of this group of fierce-looking people, to appear calm. My grandfather once mentioned to me, there are some very evil things in the greater Khingan Mountains, which ordinary people rarely encounter, and the 3-fingered macaque is one of them. At this time, Chen Boss also came to me, with a livid face, which was very ugly. I looked at him staring at me straight. I paused for a moment, before continuing. It looks like a human and a monkey, but it has great strength, and its claws are very sharp, but its most striking feature is that it only has 3 claws. Walking in the snow, it makes very little noise, and is especially good at sneak attacks. I pointed to the corpse hanging on the branch. Look at the wound, it was torn apart. Ordinary beasts, even the black bear, may not have such a clean and neat method, and it seems to have a certain level of intelligence, knowing to attack our weak points, and only attack the solitary ones. My words were half true and half false. My grandpa did say there are monsters in the mountains, but the specific details of the 3-fingered macaque are mostly made up by me, and some strange stories on the spot. But in this situation, I have to make up nonsense to get through this. Damn it, whether it is 3 or 4 fingers, the one who dares to touch us is tired of living. Jinya spat viciously, the box cannon in his hand, aimed at the depths of the dark forest, as if ready to fire at any time. I quickly stopped him. Since this thing dares to commit crimes near our camp, it must have something to rely on. It is so dark, and the forest is his territory. Rushing in is no different from suicide. Mountain spirit is afraid of fire, but also afraid of numbers. In my opinion, we need to strengthen our vigilance tonight. The bonfire can't be out, and send more groups of people to take turns on guard. Also deal with the bodies of our dead brothers properly. Otherwise, the smell of blood will attract more unnecessary trouble. Chen took off his sunglasses. He was silent for a few seconds, before speaking slowly. Just do as the little brother said. Jinya, you take some people to take the body down. Others make the fire burn more fiercely, and expand the vigilance range. His voice was steady, with unquestionable authority, although Jinya was angry. But he didn't dare to disobey Chen's order. He grumbled and called a few. His men carefully approached the tree where the body was hanging. The night wind was stronger, and the snow fell even harder. They removed the incomplete body from the tree. It was another struggle. The bloody scene made several younger men vomit on the spot. The bright red blood and the pale white blood intertwined, and looked particularly eerie in the flickering firelight. I looked at the 3 fingerprints, extended into the depths of the darkness on the snow. I felt a chill in my heart. In my grandfather's stories, these mountain spirits and monsters were often more difficult to deal with than the most brutal bandits. They are familiar with the mountains, and have secretive movements, and seemed to have a special preference for human flesh. Kui Third Master came over, handed me a cigarette. He whispered, little brother, will there be more than one? I took the cigarette and took a deep drag. The pungent smoke made me cough, but it also calmed me down a little. It is hard to say. I hope he is just passing by. If it is a group, then we may not be able to sleep peacefully tonight. My words made Third Master Ku's face even more ugly. The atmosphere in the team became extremely tense. Everyone held their weapons tightly, watching the darkness around them vigilantly. More wood was added to the bonfire, crackling and popping. The range illuminated by the fire was limited. The darkness in the distance was like a beast opening its mouth, ready to swallow everything at any time. Time passed by little by little. Every minute and every second seemed incredibly long. The voices complaining about the cold disappeared. In its place, are replaced by oppressive silence and heavy breathing. I leaned against a tree trunk, trying to keep myself awake. The idea of running away was temporarily suppressed. It is dark outside now, with snow and wind, and them three langurs are lurking in the dark. The risk of leaving alone is only higher than staying here. Just as I thought I would spend the night in this torment. Something unexpected happened. A long and mournful howl suddenly came from the depths of the forest. Unlike the previous roar, this sound was more like the roar of some beast, but with an indescribable evil. Almost at the same time, one of the guards outside the camp suddenly let out a short cry, followed by the sound of a weapon falling to the ground. Jinya reacted the fastest, rushed over with a box gun. My heart tightened. I followed Third Master Cool, moved towards the direction of the sound. The beam of the flashlight was shaking in the dark. Several new footprints appeared on the snow, still 3 fingerprints, but they were bigger and deeper than before, and not just one line. Kui gasped in shock. At the place of the accident, only leaving a pool of fresh blood and a dropped shotgun. The person was gone. Let's go and see. Jinya was already red-eyed, and he was the first to chase after them. Third Master, we can't let them chase randomly. This is clearly a diversion. Before I finished speaking, there was a sudden dense rustling sound from the other side, like many things moving quickly on the snow. I turned around sharply. I saw 7 or 8 shadows like ghosts, rushed out of the shadows of the woods, and rushed towards the supplies and yaks in the center. Although these shadows had human-like shapes, but they were on all fours, like beasts. They were agile and astonishingly fast. They were a group of langurs. Someone screamed in horror. Chen's head turned livid, and immediately commanded everyone to fight back. The gunshots suddenly rang out, and the fire flashed in the darkness. I didn't think much, and I picked up a burning log from the ground. I shouted, "Use fire! They fear fire!" In the chaos, I saw young Jinshan and his monk followers. We're unusually calm. They didn't fire randomly, but quickly formed a small formation. Their swords flashed in the firelight, and successfully pushed back several mountain demons. These Guanshan bodyguards really have some skills. However, the number of Yama was beyond our expectations, at least a dozen of them. And they were fearless of death. Several yaks have been knocked down. Screaming in pain, Kui Third Master protected me, and the earth gun in his hand kept spewing fire. I waved the burning wood, trying to drive away the approaching Loris. Just then, the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of a short and swift shadow, which bypassed the crowd engaged in the battle. The target was the tent where Chen was alone. Is there anything more important than supplies? Before I could think, a sharp scream that almost pierced my eardrums suddenly came from Chen's tent. Chen's face changed suddenly. The deep and indifferent eyes behind the sunglasses now seemed to be on the verge of bursting into flames. He didn't even bother to command the team, like a bull that was completely enraged. Roaring to shake off the attack of a mangabe, he rushed towards his tent like a madman, and rushed towards his tent like crazy. His movement, the already precarious defense line, there was a bigger gap. More bizarre things happened.